Hello, all you beautiful people around the globe, and welcome to another episode of The Journey Inward. And I'm Venerina, and I'm joined today once again by the wonderful Gareth Davies. Gareth, how are you doing?
Hey, Venerina, doing great. Can't wait to get into this topic today. So it sounds like it'll be a great one.
Absolutely. Well, I have nothing prepared for this really, because this is a kind of like a last minute request that came in from our very own Joe Dunn from the Mindset Central, and he wanted us to discuss if your mind can actually create your physical state. In other words, if you think that you feel sick, can you actually make your body sick? Does the mind influence your physical being?
That's a great topic. It really is a great topic, and it's something I've thought about a lot for many years. And I really want to hear your thoughts on this. And obviously I'll relate some of my thoughts too. But tell me what you think. I mean, I'm fascinated.
Well, I actually believe that it's absolutely possible. I think that whatever we think is whatever we tell ourselves becomes programmed, doesn't it? Because the more we say something to ourselves, the more we condition ourselves and the more we program ourselves. So if we keep saying to ourselves, say, for example, this is just an example, all day long, I have a headache, I have a headache, I have a headache. Or if I keep thinking that my head's aching, then eventually my head will ache because the body will respond to my thoughts. It's similar to, when I was a little girl, I wanted to learn how to dive into a swimming pool, but I just couldn't dive. I really could not dive. I couldn't even jump. And my teacher would come up to me and he'd say, just say to yourself, I can jump, I can jump, I can jump. And, standing on the side of the swimming pool, looking at the water, 5 minutes going, I can jump, I can jump, I can jump, I can jump. Eventually, I just jumped in.
Yeah.
So, I think we can condition ourselves and program our bodies to actually react to what we're telling our mind.
Well, it's there's that old, the saying, you are what you think, right? So it's like you are what you think you are, and not just in illness or in health, but in personality, in whoever you want to be in life. If you imagine it becomes reality. How many times in the business world have you heard the saying, fake it till you make it?
Yeah, right? That's absolutely brilliant saying, isn't it?
It's totally true. You work at some job and you don't know what the hell you're doing, right? You're winging it. But to the outside world looking at you, as long as you walk the walk and talk the talk, you're knocking it out of the park. You're doing a great job. Inside your head, you're like, what do I do? What do I do? Right? But on the outside, it's like, okay, now I need to take care of this. And everyone's like, wow, this guy, he's on the ball. Right?
Yeah, it's a bit like me in live radio, actually.
That's so prevalent in so many professions, though,
Yeah, absolutely.
You fake it until you make it. You pretend. I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, there's so, like actors, right? Somebody who makes TV shows or the theater or the movies or whatever. Their job is to pretend to be somebody else, right? For, 2 hours of a movie or whatever. And it's not just restricted to the theatrical profession. It's restricted to lives in general, right? To everyone, every man, woman, and child on planet Earth. You play a part. Every morning you put on a costume, you put on a mask, and you walk onto the stage, and you pretend, you fake it. And you create this perception of who you want to be. And eventually, the perception becomes reality.
Yes, indeed. I agree with you. I think this is where we take on the roles that we play in society, which is why we get so labelled, don't we, by what we do or by who we are, or where we can. Sorry, not by who we are, but more to the point, what we do. or who we are in relation to other people, you know, because there are labels like I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a sister. So we take on those roles as well. And we take on so many roles, don't we? But that's moving away from the topic in hand. I was going to say that I think also not only can we affect the body in a bad way, I think we can affect the body in a good way. I mean, I know from personal experience, I had stage 3 precancerous cells that were in an urgency stage that needed to be removed. And leading up to the operation, I kept saying to myself, you know, I do not have cancer. I do not have cancer. I'm healthy. I do not have cancer. I'm well. I'm well. I'm well. And when the time came of the operation from a stage 3, the doctors, when they started operating, were kind of like, well, hang on a minute. This is only a stage 1. What's the urgency?
Right.
So I think that the mind can actually influence in a good way as well, not just in a bad way.
Yeah. I really forget where I heard this. I don't know whether I heard it somewhere, whether I read it. I really can't remember. But the gist of it is, and I'm paraphrasing massively here, was that our minds are so powerful that they're in a box. They're severely controlled and chained up by society and the norms in society and belief systems of what can and cannot be accomplished. In other words, if you wanted to fly like Superman, you could. If you really 110% believe that you could. But there's not a man, woman, or child on the planet who can even get close to that 100% of belief. Because there's always that tiny, 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 tiny part of doubt. And, and that's all it takes to stop you from doing it.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know. I mean, but I'd like to believe it's true, you know?
Well, actually, you know, there's a form of, we talked about Buddhism last time on the Journey Inward, and there is a form of Buddhism, the higher the higher tantric practices that the yogis do. And at that level of practice, they say that if you get to that level, you can actually do things like walk on water, right. Like all the things that you're saying. You know, if you wanted to fly, you know, it's the kind of stuff that is miraculous almost. You know, but it's all mind over matter.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, like driving your car. You can drive your car. You can walk outside, get in the car, turn the key, and you're away, right? Mm-hmm. And there's never, ever, ever a moment of, oh my gosh, I can't drive this car. I don't even know what it is. How do I get in the thing? How do I operate it? Those moments never exist. You know that you can drive the car. You walk out, you get in, you're on your way. Never a second of doubt. So you can accomplish these things. And it's the same thing with maybe levitating or flying or altering things in reality with your mind instantly on a major scale. But you can't because you don't believe it. It's like, I can't do that. That's nuts.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? We doubt ourselves too much. Yeah, ooh. I think it's human nature, isn't it, to doubt ourselves because we condition ourselves into thinking that we're not good enough, that we're not capable enough. We concentrate on our failures more than on our strengths.
But I don't know if it is human nature to doubt ourselves. It's society's nature to enforce us to doubt ourselves.
Sorry, yeah, that's what I mean. That's more what I mean.
You know, we're definitely in some kind of box that says this is possible and this is not. You can do this, but hey, you know what? You can't do that. and we follow those rules.
Yeah.
You know? But back to the original question, as far as how you think you feel and how you feel, I think that's very valid. I think that, you know, if you think that you're worthless and you're stupid and you can't do anything, well, guess what? You're going to be worthless. You're going to be stupid, and you're not going to do anything.
Absolutely. And likewise, because we were talking about physical feelings, I think that if you tell yourself you feel tired, you feel lazy, you feel whatever, the more you reinforce those behaviors with your thought patterns, the more you are going to be tired and lazy. And you know, there's only in Chinese Qigong medicine, which is energy medicine, it's a well-known fact that if you're mentally feeling down and low and tired, your energy levels actually decrease. And the more your energy levels decrease, the less you actually want to do. Yeah. But also the energy field then starts getting corrupt in the sense that you get disease in Chinese tradition actually starts in this energy field, okay? Once the energy field is disrupted or it's corrupt, then you see illness within the body because there's not enough energy to fuel the cells in the body. And that's when physical illness starts. And
when you draw attention to that thing also, that gives it power. Now, how many times have you heard these stories? I've heard them dozens of times of somebody who is completely healthy, no problems whatsoever, up and about, doing whatever they need to do, no issues, and suddenly like, oh, you know what? Oh, I'm a bit stiff this morning. Maybe I'll go see the doctor. Oh, it's cancer. It's riddled throughout your back. 6 months later, he's dead.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot of times, actually.
And I keep thinking, well, if he hadn't gone to the doctor, and if he hadn't given the symptoms attention, I wonder if he would have lived past those 6 months.
This is a very interesting point because do you know the story of the miners in Germany that were trapped in there was an explosion in a mine and these miners were trapped? Do you know that story?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
no.
What they did was, I can't remember if it was 13 of them in this mine, but what they did was everybody took off their watch. They agreed to take their watches off, and only one person was allowed to have a watch to keep the time and the track of the time and the days that they were actually down in the mine.
Okay.
Now, what the guy did was when he told everybody else the time, he would only say that a few hours had gone by when maybe 24 had gone by. So instead of saying 24 hours had gone by, he'd say something like, no, it's only been 2 hours.
Right.
Okay? And when it got to days, he'd say, no, it was only a day or two, when maybe it was 23.
Right.
When they finally rescued the miners, they only had 12 survivors because the guy who was telling the time actually knew the truth and he died. He was the only one that died. He kept everybody else alive with these, this false information, but he actually died. That speaks to what we've just been talking about so completely, because everyone else believed the time was short. Their bodies and their mind weren't. That's amazing. It is. And, I also know people that, or I know stories, I don't know the people directly, but I also know stories of people that have, what they've done, again, in Buddhism, there was this guy in, I think it was China. He used to have Buddhists come to he had a little altar place in this little room, and he used to have the Buddhists the people that were ill come to him. And what he'd do was he'd just bless the water and he'd say mantras over the water and what have you. And people who were terminally ill with cancer would go to him and they would recite the mantras with him, and then they'd drink this water because they believed it was extremely holy because it had been blessed by the Buddha. Because of the mantras. Yeah. And they actually got cured.
Yeah, I think that it's part and parcel with the mind and the body, though. I mean, the body can get sick, but if the mind is healthy and doesn't think the body is sick, the chances of it getting sick are a lot lower. And if it does get sick, the chances of it healing a lot faster is a lot better. But it's not impossible for you to believe you're 100% healthy and be pretty sick.
This is very true.
But if you take care of your body and you take care of your mind and you believe that you're very healthy and you are very healthy, you'll probably have a long and good life. You're not going to be running to the doctor every 3 seconds. You'll be, you'll be good. Mm-hmm. But by the same token, if
absolutely,
the reverse can be true too. If the body is healthy, but the mind thinks that it isn't, the body will capitulate to the mind and become unhealthy.
Very true.
Yeah.
Have you never had maybe our listeners can relate to this, and I don't know if it's happened to you, Gareth, but for example, have you ever been out, I don't know, either running or playing with your kids or playing football or something that involves being on your feet, and you've kind of twisted your ankle a bit, but if you concentrate on the pain in your ankle, you're not able to move, are you? You're
right.
Limping around.
Yes.
But if you kind of don't concentrate on the pain, but concentrate on the kids or the running or the everything else around you, the pain kind of seems to kind of dissolve into nothing. And after a few seconds, you're kind of walking again, aren't you? Maybe, it just slowly goes away. Yeah,
it's your attention. That happened to me when I was a kid. I hurt my foot. And I was like, I can't, my foot, I can't go. And my dad punched me in the arm. And I was like, oh, my arm. He said, how's your foot now? I said, it's okay.
See, well, that's it, though, isn't it? So maybe it's
suddenly, my foot was fine. It's where you place your attention.
Absolutely, and maybe it's the amount of importance you give to it as well.
Yeah,
not just focusing your attention on it, but how much importance you give to it.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Gareth, I think we should take a little bit of a breather, don't you?
Okay, sure. Hi, everyone. This is Gareth from MindsetCentral.com. Just coming on really quickly to talk to you about subscribing or donating to Mindset Central. Right now, we average about 17 brand new podcasts a month on Mindset Central, and that's for free. So you get that content for free. It always has been free, and it will continue to be free. But just take a moment to imagine the time and the effort it takes to put all that together, plus also creating, building, sustaining the website, and the server costs. We're constantly finding ourselves reaching the point that sometimes is the breaking point, and we're up against that old foe of time and money. And we're hoping that with your help, we can break through this wall. Not only do we want to continue with Mindset Central, but we want to build upon it and create something very special on the internet. So please think about helping us and becoming a subscriber. By becoming a subscriber to Mindset Central, you'll have access to the subscriber section, which provides exclusive, all-new podcasts and a lot more. The subscriber section has and will continue to grow into an area that you will want to be a part of. And with monthly access priced at that of a large coffee at Starbucks. So for one coffee, you get access to the subscriber section, packed with content that is continually added to on a weekly basis. So please help us. Help us by becoming a subscriber. Thank you.
And welcome back. And if you've just joined us, you're listening to The Journey Inward. And today we're talking about how your mind can actually influence your physical body. And we've had some great points. If you haven't heard any of them up until now, then please go back and re-listen. But this is a very strong thing. I think that people need to speak to themselves more positively. Because when you speak to yourself more positively and more lovingly, that's when you can actually begin the healing process. If you constantly drag yourself down, if you constantly speak negatively, then you are ultimately going to harm yourself, not just in mind, but also in body.
Venerina, this really kind of ties into the law of attraction also. It kind of bends into this as far as our minds creating our environment, creating our reality. It's like if you're in a bad place right now in your life, you're there because you put yourself there unconsciously, and vice versa. If you're in a real good place, you're there because that's where you put yourself.
Absolutely.
You attract. If you're attracting negative people to you, and you're surrounded by people who are always complaining or putting people down or whatever, you're attracting them to you, and you're doing it. You might not do it on purpose, but unconsciously these things are happening. Do you know what I mean? You care to speak to that, or?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I believe this very, very strongly. I think that we create our own realities based on our thoughts. In fact, the book I wrote, The Power to Transform Is Yours, Be Your Best Friend, Not Your Worst Enemy, which is available on Amazon, just a quick plug there. I think that I actually wrote in the book that our whole world is based on our beliefs, but 99% of those beliefs, well, probably not 99%, but 95% of those beliefs are not actually our own.
Right.
And so therefore we create these worlds around us that have been influenced by our parents, by the educational system, by society, by, anybody we come into contact with. In fact, I would go as far as saying that 90% of us don't really know ourselves.
True, yes.
I mean, when you sit down and think about it, I don't think we even know, on a day-to-day basis what we like and what we don't like. Because we don't know ourselves.
We did.
We don't invest enough time in getting to know ourselves.
We did know ourselves, though. I think that when we're small children, we know exactly who we are. But as we
I mean, how many children?
As we get older, and parents, grandparents, the news, society, they if you're acting a certain way, it's like, oh no, you can't do that. They change you. And it's only when you're older, and if you're of a mindset to explore these things and begin to journey inward, that you start to find out who you really are and who you once knew yourself to be.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that we're absolutely corrupted from childhood into adulthood, and I think that we're corrupted. And in part, we allow this corruption to happen because we want to be accepted and be loved and to be accepted. And we think, we think that to be accepted and to be loved, we have to conform.
Exactly.
And so therefore, we're quite happy to be molded because of fear of being isolated.
If, as a small child, this is a good analogy, and this tells you how reality can be so skewed. If, as a small child, you go to your parents and you say, your mommy or daddy or whatever, what's 2 plus 2? And your dad will turn to you and say, well, son, 2 plus 2 is 5. And you'll scratch your head and think, well, that doesn't make sense. But hey, my dad just told me that it's 5. He loves me. So it must be true. And then you go to school, and in the classroom you put your hand up and you say to the teacher, what's 2 plus 2? And the teacher will say, well, the 2 plus 2 is 5. And you're like, oh, okay. And then, you grow up and you go to college and you say to the professor, what's 2 plus 2? And he says, what's 5? And you're like, okay, great. And then, you get up, you go to work, you get a job, and you get married and you have a family. And one day your kid will come to you and say, Daddy, what's 2 plus 2? And you look at him or her and say, well, it's 5. And that's how the cycle of lies and manipulation continue. That's how the seed is planted. I mean, 2 + 2 does never and will never equal 5. But reality, as defined by our institutions, our culture, and the norms, if they tell us that it's 5, we will believe it. And that's how the reality that we're experiencing is constructed. Because we're told certain things that are true, absolutely, but we're told certain things that are true not by people who are trying to lie to us or deceive us or to give us a hard time. We're being told these things by people who love us.
Absolutely.
So we accept
and not
it.
only that, I think that an example I make in my book is about young children who, for example, they get to a certain age, like, 4 or 5, and they'll dress up in, their mother's shoes, or they'll put, they'll dress up ridiculously because that's what children do.
Right.
They invent characters, they create their own reality. And then they'll go into their parents and they'll say, "Mummy, Daddy, look at me, look how I look." And the parents will turn around and say, "You look ridiculous. Don't be an idiot. Go and take this off."
Yeah.
And by doing that, they're already giving the child complexes. And if they go to school and then they say, "What's 2?" and the teacher says, "What's 2 and 2?" and the child says it's 5, the teacher says, "You're stupid,"
right,
because you don't know the right answer.
Yeah.
And then, and there's this reinforcement all throughout their lives that says you're stupid, you're nothing, you're worthless, that somebody eventually gets to the point where they actually believe that they are stupid and worthless.
Sure.
But, I was having this conversation, in actual fact, yesterday with, the day before yesterday with a very good friend of mine. And I find it sad in cases where parents especially put their children down time after time after time. They massacre them. And then these children, they grow up into adults and they're still being massacred. And then you have this beautiful human being, right? Because in my friend's case, this person is a beautiful human being, but they feel worthless because their parents constantly put them down. And it's like, the only advice I can give to somebody in that situation, which is the same advice another friend gave, and that is let go of the emotional attachment to things, to the words that people say to you. Don't give them importance emotionally. Don't hold on to them, because words at the end of the day are words. I can come to you and say, "Gareth, you're an idiot." But if you're in a jokey mood and you got up, feeling really good, you're going to turn around to me and say, "Hey, Venerina, you know what? You're an idiot too." Yeah. Or it takes one to know one.
Right.
But if you're feeling in a really bad mood and you're feeling down and whatever, you're going to tell me to piss off, aren't you? Because, it's going to upset you. It's going to offend you. Isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're going to feel really bad, and I'm going to feel really bad.
Sure.
So what I'm saying has no value whatsoever. I'm saying the same words. So you as a person have given me my words meaning, power. You've given them life.
Well,
whereas if you shrug something off and don't give it emotion, you don't give it life, and you don't give it importance. So you don't need to hold on to it.
They've done some research, and I find this fascinating, that certain words and phrases actually reprogram your DNA. The thought behind the thought, well, maybe not the word, but the thought or the intent behind the word will reprogram DNA. I know there's many researchers that have said that your DNA strands are like antennas receiving information that creates reality. Excuse me. And so words can be very powerful and can hurt you and harm you and reprogram not only your DNA but your mind. You'll see it every day on the news, the way certain words are used in certain sentences specifically to alter your thought patterns and things of that nature.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. And I do actually know about the study that you're talking about, and I think it's a very powerful one.
Yeah.
In fact, if you notice nowadays, there are a lot of programs for people who are overweight that are based now on the language you use with yourself.
Yeah.
Instead of, constructing these eating plans and diets that just don't work, these fad diets, it's specifically based on language. Neuro-linguistic programming is a perfect example.
Right.
Again, in my book, I say that you're the one person that you talk to constantly from when you get up in the morning to the minute you go to bed.
Exactly.
You're constantly having conversations with yourself. You're the only person you talk to so much throughout your lifetime. And if you were your best friend, you would never say something bad.
No.
So why is it we have this thing, that we can talk badly to ourselves? No, stop it. Talk to yourself as if you are your best friend. Give yourself the best advice.
Yeah.
Say nice things to yourself. If you say nice things to yourself, you put yourself in a good mood. Sorry, Gareth, the one last thing on this topic is I don't believe that we should rely on others, to make us happy. I think that comes from within and from the language we use with ourselves.
No, I would agree completely. I mean, you're responsible for you. You can't blame everything on everyone else. But there is an impact there also. If you're surrounded by people who are very upbeat and positive, you can't help but be upbeat and positive yourself, and vice versa. People are always complaining, it affects you.
Yeah, but like you said yourself, you attract those people into your life.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So the minute you change, those people disappear.
They'll go away. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's a lot of. When somebody is talking badly about you, I read a quote somewhere. I forget. I always do this. I remember the quote, but I never remember who said it. Where it's like, what people think of me is none of my business, right? So if somebody hates me, what's that got to do with me? That's their problem, not mine, right? If somebody thinks I'm an asshole, then okay. That's fine, that's your problem. It's not mine. I think I'm great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the thing, there are also going to be opinions about you as many as there are people that you know, because every single person you meet in life is going to have a different opinion of you.
Right.
So, that's something that's completely out of your control. And it's not because you change, depending on the people you know. You're not going to be one way with one person, one way with another. I mean, you might adapt your personality a little bit, to meet the other person halfway, but you're not going to change so drastically that you become a different person. It's how people interpret you. So it's their own, mental makeup that makes you who they think you are. Yeah. It's not who you are, it's who they think you are. And this is why a lot of people have get disappointed, because they make this image of you, and then they have these expectations of you. And when your behavior doesn't actually live up to their expectations of who they think you are and should be, then they get disappointed. Now, it wasn't you that disappointed them, and then they feel hurt.
Yeah,
but it's not you that
it's their perception. Them. It's very similar to
their own mind.
Yeah, because you view the world, you experience reality filtered through your belief system.
And all the baggage you bring with you.
Yeah, all your emotional nonsense and what you believe, and and reality streams through this filter. It's like you have a filter in front of your head, and the truth piles through this filter, and only little pieces of it will come through, and those will be twisted to your own belief system. We're never completely exposed to 100% pure reality. It's always through a filter, and you create that filter. And I've often thought, what would it be like to experience unfiltered, 100% natural reality? I wonder how different things would be. Would it be wonderful? Would it be terrifying? Would it be horrific? Do
you know, I think the only time you could actually do that would be either during meditation or at the moment of death.
Yeah.
Because I think the reality that we live in will never be unfiltered and natural. The only way you can get back to your unfiltered, natural state of reality is probably in an alpha state. And in the alpha state, you would either be in meditation, where your mind is totally controlled, totally empty, totally, perhaps this is the nirvana, that Buddhists talk about.
Right. But no, see,
where you absolutely have
when you talk about nirvana, though, it feels like a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know whether it would be. Because because experiencing reality unfiltered, without our beliefs and our baggage and our nonsense that we bring with us, it might be unbearable. It might be horrific, like absolute, terror. But because we kind of pretend that our world functions in a certain way, and this works that way, and this is nice or that's kind of nasty, and we have our own views or ideas of how things work, and we live in this bubble, we kind of tame the beast, so to speak. You know what I mean?
I don't. You kind of. Okay. I tend to think that there are some people that have real problems with the alpha state or doing meditation because they find it terrifying. And there are a lot of people that are horrified by the fact of silence. We've mentioned this before. We've talked about this.
I'm not really talking about meditation, or because that's just another form of filter. That's just like hitting the mute button on your microphone, right? You're still filtering.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But
in a different way. What I'm talking about is no filter at all, zero, nothing, zero filter.
Oh, sorry, zero filter.
Nothing. That
would be terrifying.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Like
that would be terrifying.
It would be a horrific experience. I would guess. I don't know, obviously.
I can't even imagine that. I can't even get my head around that, actually. Sorry. No, I can't even get my head around that one. That would be, I think...
experiencing raw reality from no filter at all.
Have you ever seen any videos of people that have taken the ayahuasca? Is it ayahuasca? Ayahuasca.
Yeah.
I can't even pronounce
ayahuasca.
it. Yeah?
No, I haven't seen any... I mean, I know about it, but I haven't seen any videos of anyone taking it. What does it show? What kind of stuff?
Well, it shows people that experience a reality that is completely out of, I don't know what's going on in their heads, but the reality that they're experiencing is terrifying to the point that they're physically sick, they are completely out of control. Yeah. Their mind is completely possessed. Perhaps that's what it would be like if we were to have the state that you're talking about with no filters.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
We touched on this a little bit in the Behind the Curtain we did a while ago on the movie Altered States. Because they talk a lot about sensory deprivation and taking ayahuasca while in a sensory deprivation tank. and the results of what happens there. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating. It's just different forms of perception, expanded consciousness, experiencing more of reality instead of the filtered version that your mind is like it is. It's like your mind is like a sieve in many ways. It's filtering the input.
Is it? Okay, well, one of the questions that's springing to my mind from this, is it because the mind is a sieve, or is it because we only use 2% of our mind and we don't know what the rest of the mind is capable of, and that in itself is a frightening reality?
Well, I've heard this many times. We only use 2%. See, I think I've heard 2% or 10% of our brains, but who's to say that our consciousness even resides in the brain? Our certain stimulus, like, you can touch a certain brain and you can feel, oh, hey, I can taste ice cream and things like that, if you poke a certain region of the brain. Yeah. But the actual consciousness, the awareness, the self-awareness, the thoughts that happen, I mean, who knows whether that's even in the brain?
Yeah, that's another discussion for another day, because I'm actually an advocate for the fact that I don't believe that consciousness is in the brain.
But if you go down that path, though, that the consciousness might not even be in the brain, well, then the whole we only use 2% of our brain is kind of out the window.
But we use the brain for rationalizing, don't we?
I don't know. Do we?
Processing information.
Okay.
I would say yes, we use it for processing information, but that it stores memories. No, I don't believe that. I believe that memory is stored in every single cell of the body.
Okay.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to explain people, for example, who have had organ transplants, and with the organ transplant, they've acquired memories that aren't theirs.
Right.
You've heard of cases like that, haven't you?
Yeah. And there's the phantom limb. You get a car accident, you lose your arm.
Yeah.
And you can say, and you can sit there and be like, I have no arm, and be like, hey, I'm wiggling my fingers right now.
Yeah. That's that as well. And there are people that also have this feeling that parts of their body don't belong to them. There was a case of a guy in the States who believed that one of his feet didn't belong to him, and he desperately wanted this foot amputated.
Well, there's like a sexual fetish too, where people have limbs removed.
Yeah, that's sick. I'm sorry.
They get off and having their legs cut off and stuff.
Yeah, I find that very sick. I'm sorry. Get a life!
But I mean, it's all like psychological issues. I mean, who knows? But it's as disturbing that is. It is kind of fascinating too. It's this thing. Well, why would you do that? That's crazy. But they do it, and they go to they go to like Mexico or something into some hospital and pay a couple of $1,000s, and they'll amputate a healthy leg.
Yeah. Let's not even go down that path.
Okay,
I mean,
let's go back.
No, it's wrong. Yeah. As Alex would say, that's so wrong. So wrong.
It's crazy,
we're not
though.
going down that path. It is crazy, but when it's genuine, okay, I can understand it. I'm not talking about sexual fetishes here. I'm talking about genuinely somebody who, like you said, they have an altered state of reality in their head than they do in their physical body. Mm-hmm. And that, I believe, is a valid condition, if you like.
Now, on previous shows with Ginny and Wood, we talked about consciousness. What about expanded consciousness? I mean, is there more than what we experience?
Oh, yes. I'm sure there is.
Okay.
I mean, when we're awake, okay, the consciousness that we experience is one. When we're asleep, that's another one. When we meditate, that's a whole different ballgame.
But what about waking consciousness? Just right now, you're awake, you're functioning, you're talking to me, you probably got stuff you're going to take care of when this is over. You got to go to work, you got to do this, blah blah blah. Normal waking consciousness. Can you expand that kind of waking consciousness, or do you have to go into an altered state to experience these other expanded views of reality?
No, you don't. I don't think you necessarily have to go into an altered state. I think you can actually expand on what you're doing now. I mean, we're sat here, we're talking. Yes, fair enough. I'm aware of I'm most of the time I'm aware of what I'm saying to you. But I'm also aware of the fact that, the air around me today feels very soft. Now, I don't know if it's because my physical being is different today, or whether it's because the temperature's different, or whether it's the atmosphere. But I'm actually consciously aware of this world that I can't see, so I know it's a little bit cold. I can sense that the rain outside is getting, there's raining less. I'm aware of all kinds of things that most people wouldn't even be aware of. It's not just the fact that I'm sitting here and talking to you and looking at a computer screen.
I think that's mainly because of your Buddhist practice, though, right? You're drawing attention to the now, and not thinking about what I'm going to do later. You're living in the moment, which very few people do.
Yeah, well, I don't think that comes from Buddhist practice. I think that comes from having died, because I realized when after the near-death experience, the death experience that I had, that life is now, because it only takes half a fraction of a second to die. And, I think that's the problem nowadays. I think too many people live either in the past or in the future rather than living in the present and actually experiencing everything that's going on around them. But I think, we're going to have to leave it there for today because, as per usual, we've run out of time. What a fantastic show it's been.
Oh, yeah. Venerina, we could have talked for hours on this, and we'll revisit some of these topics again, I would suspect, because it's such a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gareth, I'd like to just say thank you very much for joining me once again on The Journey Inward, and a very, very big thank you to our very own Joe Dunn, and for the suggestion, of course, of today's topic. And until next time, have a fantastic life. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.